Microsoft Teams, also known as Teams, was used by our group to both communicate and collaborate on this project. Next, we'll review how Microsoft Teams was used for this purpose. We used Teams as our main source of daily communication via the chat feature. This allowed our team to instantly discuss any questions specific members had about the project. We also used the chat feature to schedule meetings at convenient days and times for all members. After specific tasks were assigned during our meetings, we were able to update team members regarding our individual progress as well. We also used the Meet feature in Teams to instantly start our scheduled meetings. During these meetings, we had the ability to record our meeting as well as utilize screen share capabilities. The screen share capabilities allowed us to have a better understanding of different topics discussed as a visual was present during these conversations. Teams was also used to facilitate collaboration amongst our group during this project. Using the Files section in Teams, our group was able to create and edit shared files. These shared files were instantly accessible to all team members, allowing us to review and give feedback on completed work. The Files section also allowed us to organize our research notes, PowerPoint slides, and presentation scripts in a centralized location, unifying our file structure.
Hey guys, so in this section I'm going to talk to you guys about what AWS is and explain it just a little bit so you can briefly get the idea. So starting off with a brief definition, AWS, or better known as Amazon Web Services, is an evolving cloud computing platform which is provided by Amazon, and it's offered to several different companies and businesses. And based on that definition, it does bring into the picture about cloud computing. And so none of you are confused, I will define that as well. So cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT or information technology resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So whatever you use, you just pay for that while you're using these services. So now we're going to get into just a general overview of AWS and some interesting facts. And so starting off, AWS uses a mixture of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and packaged software as a service offerings. And this is what they use to offer in their whole service system. And along with that, it also offers organization tools such as these listed below, and these are offered to businesses for them to use, for them to utilize, and just make their work much easier. And at the same time, AWS utilizes a shared responsibility model where Amazon is responsible for the operation and security of the entire stack so the customer can get straight to using the services. And in just brief terms, this means that like Amazon really handles all like the back end, all the work going on behind the scenes that no one really sees. And so the business can just start using the services and doesn't have to deal with all the logistics and handling a lot of the stuff that Amazon uses. And so it's much easier for them. And so moving on to the significance and relevance of AWS, we're just going to start off with saying that AWS was created in 2006, but it has become much, much more popular within these past few years. And seeing that in action, we can actually see that in 2016, AWS was the most utilized and profitable cloud infrastructure service in the entire world. That is huge. And so moving on, AWS also enables you to select the operating system, programming language, web application platform, database, and other services you may need. It also provides unlimited bandwidth for highly trafficked websites. And this is a good thing for businesses as it allows for there to be no worries about storage issues, data management, and other tasks that businesses might worry or might have to worry about, such as infrastructure and stuff. And yeah, it is very good for businesses overall. This just makes it very easy for them to continue their operation, not have to worry about any of like the software aspect, especially for those businesses that might not be entirely focused on software, but may need to utilize things such as the database and, their websites and whatnot.
This is Gabriel Gilman, and I'm going to be talking about the applications of AWS and its impact to society and how AWS is encountered in the engineering profession. But let's start with the applications first. Of course, we must say what is what AWS means. And AWS is a cloud computing service that provides IT infrastructure services to an abundant number of businesses, which is known as cloud computing. And the applications and its benefits. AWS, or Amazon Web Services, that's actually the acronym for AWS. It provides multiple applications and benefits that can impact society. It can provide many things, such as storing database, storing Internet of Things, stuff like that. AWS also now provides services and other IT infrastructure in minutes. And usually this process will take weeks or months of preparation in advance for companies and businesses. When you're talking about services and IT infrastructure, you're talking about IoT services, data lakes, and analytics. And usually, without AWS or without such technology to cloud computing, these things would take a while. It's just like most applications today. A lot of times, you had to learn how to do stuff, even though it would take a long time. It's kind of like learning stuff today. Like for example, if you want to learn something, you nowadays you can just go on Google and learn how to do stuff in minutes. But back then, I'll say 20 years ago, you had to go to the library or read a book, or you had to buy a book at a bookstore. Of course, people still do that now, but it's much more convenient to learn something in seconds or even minutes instead of spending an entire day or a few hours perhaps learning how to do things. So it's the AWS disaster response team is an example of one of them. And disaster response through the AWS disaster response team helps customers and governments around the world respond to natural disasters and health emergencies through cloud technology around the world. This means that governments and health around the world can respond to a natural disaster in seconds. Say, for example, a natural disaster were to occur in a different part in a city in a different part of the city. Usually, it would take a while before information reached to the government or any place around the world. But now with AWS, it can reach to the customer in seconds. And it can reach to the government in seconds. And when it reaches to the government, then the government provides aid to these disaster-stricken places. It can also be used to restore data and connection to areas that need it most, such as government buildings and hospitals. And usually, when a natural disaster strikes, the first thing that it hits, well, it hits everybody equally. It hits the government buildings, it hits hospitals, it hits the homes, it hits everything that is located in cities or towns. But of course, these are essential to these are essential to the government buildings and hospitals are essential to how society produces. So usually AWS provides these services first. Of course, small houses and parks and stuff like that, they come after, but usually those come first because without these information, because without it, then the most effective ones become lost. And of course, when you're in a natural disaster, you need government buildings and hospitals. People may get hurt, or you might need reliable information from the government, and you can't do that. So, ground stations, if, for example, can control a traffic control satellite or a GPS, for example. What it does is that the ground station will tell you at at this locate at this location there's traffic, or at this location there's no traffic, or there might be an accident along the road, or there's not an accident along the road. Yeah, but a ground station provides much more than traffic control. As you already know, satellites control pretty much everything going on with the modern world today. And of course, without satellites, our modern world would not be the same. As a matter of fact, we would probably be living more primitively. Uh, but but because AWS operate operates ground station through cloud computing, it makes ground stations even more efficient. And what this means is that it makes it much easier to track global recession, and it protects marine reserves, and to better predict global food supply. So those are all great benefits to how AWS can can really help in the ground station aspect. It becomes much easier for that. If you want to learn more, I provided the references on how on these topics. Now we're going to talk about how and where issues are encountered in the engineering profession regarding AWS. Now, of course, because there are so many opportunities nowadays, a plethora of jobs and careers are opening, and AWS is one of those companies. Ready. So the services provided. So AWS issues services from infrastructure technologies and emerging technologies. And infrastructure technologies such as computing, storage, and emerging technologies such as machine learning and artificial intelligence, data lakes and analytics, and IoT, which stands for Internet of Things. So this actually is really good for computer science and computer engineering. It has some of the most sophisticated internet computing to date. And of course, AWS provides plenty of job opportunities. But you know, there are a plethora of job opportunities that AWS provide, and and a lot has to do with engineering. So we're just gonna focus on one. So AWS offers jobs in engineering, and there's a position called AWS engineer. And what that is that it's a IT professional who sustains, and develop AWS cloud infrastructure for running applications. Customers who have issues or questions can contact a team of support engineers and receive foreseeable response times and personalized support. So this means that customers that have trouble with AWS can contact a team of support engineers, and they and they and they can receive any answer to any question that they provide. With that being said, one of the I have mentioned that AWS provides health services to natural disasters and health emergencies. So with that being said, my question to you is what is the current situation that AWS is providing today? I'll give you a hint. It's something that we're going through over now. We're going through now.
Let's think about the ethics around Amazon Web Services. A discerning eye is important when looking at the ethical issues that arise from cloud computing, especially Amazon Web Services, or AWS, as this technology puts as much computing power as one can pay for at any person's fingertips nearly instantly. With AWS having servers around the globe and rather easy requirements to access it, we should pause to consider the implications of everyone and anyone having extreme processing power from nearly any geographical location with a stable internet connection. AWS has an ethical responsibility to protect its users' privacy and security, but it also must comply with the laws and government around it. This sometimes creates an ethical dilemma where a service provider is expected to enact government policies that threaten the privacy of its consumers, such as giving away the key to encrypted data or allowing the unwarranted and unconstitutional search and collection of data. Furthermore, while we are on the topic of privacy, consider the ethical dilemmas that may arise from AWS being used as a third-party service for your data without your knowledge. For example, a lawyer may wish to aggregate their documents onto the cloud. Does the lawyer have authorization to upload personal and possibly incriminating information about you to the cloud? How should the vendor and the law firm reach an agreement on how the vendor will handle confidential client information in a way that keeps with the lawyer's professional responsibilities? Next, some of you may not have heard of SLA before, or a service level agreement, which is a document agreement between a service provider and a customer that outlines the requirements and specifications of the service. Your service level agreement will change depending on what Amazon Web Service you use specifically, but in general, the SLA always defines the metrics, responsibilities, and expectations of a particular agreement to ensure that the event of a dispute, neither party may plead ignorance. The issue arises when the SLA is not respected. That is, when violations of the SLA go unregistered and compensation is not delivered. So in long story short, ethical issues arise when minor infractions of the SLA go unnoticed by either party. You can think of this as skimming a little off the top every time a service request is made. Or in other words, a bunch of tiny thefts to slowly accumulate a fortune. Now, AWS is an emerging technology giant who, as of 2021, holds on to 32% of the cloud computing market. As with any leading-edge technology, there are plenty of obstacles that limit the growth and efficiency of cloud services, especially AWS. These obstacles should be seen as temporary roadblocks, though, as the difficulties around them will pale in comparison to the vast number of opportunities that AWS creates. Let us divide these challenges and opportunities further to really understand what AWS can and can't do, both now and in the future. Now, AWS is taking off big time, and everyone is racing to keep up. AWS generates a large portion of Amazon's revenue and is expected to grow even faster as the demand for cloud computing and processing grows. Unfortunately, as AWS grows, so does its complexity. With AWS expanding its services yearly, with more businesses practicing hybrid cloud or multi-cloud services, it is becoming more and more difficult for IT teams to manage it all. Employers are seeking confident AWS managers, but most IT members have no formal training in AWS. This creates a risky situation for businesses because small mistakes in AWS can be extremely costly. With AWS resources and expertise drying up, companies are reporting that migrating to the cloud is becoming harder, even though the purpose of doing so in the first place is supposed to make things easier and more efficient. Regarding the level of difficulty to migrating to AWS, per a report by RightScale, almost 75% of the respondents marked it as a challenge, while 23% said it was a serious challenge. To pile further onto the challenges of migrating to AWS is the issue of integrating legacy systems. A report which surveyed 1,300 IT leaders found that 62% of respondents cited the integration of legacy systems as their biggest challenge in multi-cloud, while 61% said their primary difficulty was understanding the new technology associated with it. Next, AWS offers virtually unlimited computing power, but you must be able to afford it. Unfortunately, if managing correctly, it can be easy to waste processes and eat up expensive bandwidth through AWS. Exact rates and services vary, but there are many ways to end up with an unpayable bill. For example, turning on a cloud instance and accidentally leaving it running has led to surprise bills with the cost of being uppers to $100,000. It's far too easy to make such costly mistakes on AWS. Regarding expectations, as a newer technology, AWS sometimes struggles with meeting expectations, even when said expectations are set by them themselves. To elaborate, strong expectations of unformed technologies can have negative consequences when businesses make predictions that use said expectations in their formula. For example, a business may predict 50% more revenue based on a new AWS update, so they increase their stock, only to not receive the AWS update and to realize a loss instead. Expectations must be responsible, practical, and used appropriately. Now, let's focus on the amazing opportunities that AWS creates. First of which is that you can pay for just what you use. Pay for what you use allows a small business to build databases, store systems, and more instantly without the cost of expensive hardware, of which they will only likely use a fraction of. Secondly, if that small business grows, AWS can scale with it to facilitate growth immediately. This growth can be agile as well, as AWS already has the infrastructure in place to allow a company to expand, in many ways, when they need it. This is compared to a non-cloud competitor who will have to wait for new servers and hardware to be shipped and built at their location. Finally, another opportunity created by AWS is better security for small businesses. A small company may have a single IT person, no pre-existing security protocols for their networks, and no backups in the case of a power outage. AWS can fix all of this and more. AWS is arguably more secure than any other option a small company has, with them saying themselves that cloud security at AWS is the highest priority. In this way, not only may a company now have more security, but IT resources are freed up and can be spent in other ways thanks to AWS.
Hey everyone, so we're gonna start off with just defining what remote work and remote learning is. So yeah, let's get started. Yeah, so getting into it, remote work is the practice of employees doing their jobs from a location other than the central office operated by the employer. So basically, people working outside of the office of the actual company. And remote learning follows a similar practice in which it's a practice of teachers virtually teaching students using a virtual chat room or recorded lectures which are outside of the actual classroom. So, in essence, students learning from teachers in chat rooms such as like Zoom and Google Meets, or they're just watching recorded lectures that the teachers have previously recorded for them. Going into the overview of remote work and remote learning, the concept of it started in the early 2000s, but became increasingly popular during the COVID-19 pandemic, as that's when most people were forced inside their houses and they really had no choice other than work from home or just lose their job. And nowadays, a lot of institutions and companies use it around the world. I've hearing of several job openings and stuff that are just based on remote. And finally, this offers a lot of benefits to the employees, employers, students, and teachers, which will be covered in the next slide. And now we're going to move on to the significance and relevance. And so starting off, being remote has allowed for people to maintain their jobs and or their education from the convenience of their location of choice. So meaning like people could work whatever the job they're working at or keep on studying whatever institution they're studying at from wherever they like, whether it's like from home or in bed or the local library or a park, wherever they like, they feel comfortable at, they could do it from there. And moving on, it has also allowed for students and employees to keep their jobs and education going despite being forced home during a pandemic. This was a very big thing, as we all know, like lockdown happened, and either you stayed home, lost your job, or you worked from home and studied from home. And this was like a very good option at that time. And it also reduced costs such as transportation and maintenance of company and institutional buildings. So stuff like money on gas was saved. Some people could actually sell their cars. They really like had no need. And people or institutions such as like companies and schools, they really save money of not having to maintain buildings and keep them going and all the utility and electric bills. They didn't really have to pay them, so that worked out pretty well. And it also allowed companies and teachers to easily reach more people around the world without having to change the living conditions. So this is meaning like companies could hire people from across the world. They weren't only limited to like a specific location or like a general area. And at the same time, those people that the company hired, they didn't have to come and change their living conditions and be in a place where they didn't really know, they didn't really know how to navigate through or just live around, right? And it could be easier for them as well. They could stay at home while the company could also like follow through with them, communicate with them, and hire them and essentially work with them from wherever they are. And same things with students and teachers. They could learn from wherever they are, and the teachers could teach from wherever they are. And students wouldn't have to move. They wouldn't have to find a new place to live and all that. It was a lot of hassle-free stuff. And finally, there were some like we could say downsides to this as well because there was quite some adjusting to be done as some jobs are done much better in person, and that's of course like people who work more hands on, more of like the skilled laborers, those type of jobs, they would have some like lots of adjusting to do as like remote type of work wouldn't really they it wouldn't suit them too well, you could say. They'd have to like really just figure out a way of how they can get stuff going and keep their regular routine working without having to be in the office together and having the tools that they need.
Now we'll talk about the technologies, impact on society, and engineering issues of remote learning. There are many technologies and tools that can be used in remote learning, such as Learning Management System or LMS, which is a software application for delivering course materials, assigning quizzes, and tracking student progress. The main benefit of LMS is the convenience of having all course materials in a central location, for example, Canvas and Blackboard. Something that can be used in remote learning as well is assistive technology, which is any item, piece of equipment, software, or system that can be used to increase, maintain, and improve the capabilities of a person with disabilities. Something else that can be used is something called data casting or data broadcasting. And the main idea of this is to provide students who have no internet access documents, lessons, and videos through radio waves in a one-way communication. Remote learning has an impact on many different areas. Some can be good, some can be bad. Impact on children's education. Some negative impacts of remote learning in children's education is lack of structure, decreased engagement, so teachers might not be able to tell what students need help. Some positive impacts are more flexible schedules, fewer distractions, more sleep, and shy students that may struggle in person might be more encouraged to participate in class. Impact on children's development. Some negative impacts from remote learning can be isolation, lack of motivation, and depression. And some positive impacts can be that students feel relief from not having the pressure to look good or meet certain social expectations. Also, people who are victims of bullying might find a relief on online learning. Impacts on family dynamics. Parents may feel more connected to their children's education. Also, they may better understand what their children are learning. They have a stronger understanding of children's academic strengths and weaknesses. They also have a closer relationship with the teachers. Impact on physical health. Studying has shown that this shift has caused many kids to experience weight gain, headaches, poor sleep, and eye strain from too much screen time. Engineering issues. There are many issues that arise from remote learning, such as accessibility for disabled students. For instance, video-based lectures without accurate closed captions can significantly limit learning for students who are deaf or hard of hearing. Also, scanning worksheets and uploading as a PDF without making it compatible for screen readers might make learning impossible for blind or visually impaired students. So engineers need to find a way to make learning accessible for disabled students. Another issue is the high cost of remote learning. For instance, remote students need a computer, internet services, webcams, and microphones, which can add up pretty quickly if you don't have the means to do it. So engineers need to find a way to make remote learning more accessible to people with less money. Now we'll talk about technologies impacting society and the engineering issues of remote work. There are many technologies and tools that can be used in remote work, such as instant messaging applications. These applications are very important to ensuring constant progress is taking place. For this purpose, instant messages applications like Slack for business cases are very valuable to ensure that there are no delays in communication caused by remote working. Another tool that can be used is video conferencing. Sometimes instant messaging applications are not enough. Meetings are a crucial part of everyday work life, even working remotely. Utilize these conference solutions like Zoom or MS Teams for real two-way communication. And employees can globally attend these meetings anywhere in the world. Team collaboration. There is rarely any work in a department being done alone. Instead, multiple team members need access to the same documents. These productivity tools allow seamless work and collaboration between team members on the same document with autosave functionality, version histories, to ensure that work is being backed up and all team members are up to date about the work in progress. Project and process management tools. These tools allow managers to easily track their work in progress, which is especially helpful for managers overseeing big teams. Such remote working technologies provide transparency in all tasks being performed and assist in the objective evaluation of employee task completion and efficiency. Impacts of remote work. Freedom to work from anywhere. Remote work has allowed employees to work from anywhere they want. They don't have to be in the same city or even the same country as the company, which is good for companies. A new study from Harvard Business School showed that companies that allow employees to work from anywhere attract workers who prove to be more loyal and more productive. Lowers costs. Businesses no longer need to rent office space at the cost of utilities such as electricity, water, cleaning services, also furniture, office supplies, and computer systems. Some studies suggest that companies that allow employees to work from home might save up to $10,000 per year per employee. Workers with disabilities. Remote work has allowed more disabled people to go to work. Some may have had trouble commuting to work and now they no longer need to rely on others. Others might have been self-conscious and were anxious around other people. Remote work has removed some of these challenges, allowing them to go to work. Engineering issues. Time wasting. Nearly half of workers say that an abundance of remote working tools is making it harder to get their job done. Research by Cornell University found that 43% of workers report spending too much time switching between different tools. As a result, employees are wasting up to 5 hours every week switching between different tools, cycling through tabs, and digging through messaging channels. Employers need to research and choose the tools that work best with your company instead of blasting your employees with every remote working technology present in the market. And engineers need to develop tools that integrate better. Security. Having a team of workers accessing your network remotely, sometimes from their own devices, potentially opens the organization up to a range of security threats, from viruses, malware, ransomware, through phishing and other forms of social engineering. Minimizing any associated risks, therefore, needs to be a top priority for engineers.
Let's talk about the ethical issues related to remote work and remote learning. However, before we do that, it's important that we understand what ethical issues are. Ethical issues are defined as a situation where moral standards are questioned. This can occur when a given scenario, decision, or activity creates a conflict with society's moral principles. Remote work and remote learning face different ethical issues. For remote work, issues such as working during a sickness, lower wages for employees depending on where they live, privacy, and employees taking extended breaks or working on non-office related tasks are among the most common. For remote learning, we see issues related to cheating, inappropriate classroom discussions, and concerns with recorded lectures. Let's take a look at each of these ethical issues to get a better understanding. Working while sick causes ethical issues when working remote because for so long, the very concept of a sick day meant staying home. But if an employee is already at home, do they still get a sick day? In fact, experts have found that many employees tend to continue working while sick if working remotely. However, the downside of this is the employee can take longer to recover, experience burnout, and ultimately be less productive. In fact, according to a recent Monster survey, 51% of Americans admitted to experiencing burnout while working from home due to rest and relaxation merging with the workplace. This increase in burnout may very well lead to an increase in mental health problems in the workplace. Overall, businesses may start offering lower wages depending on where employees live. One company that has already implemented this is Facebook. This is because permanently working from home will cause changes to how we see working. Permanently working from home means the employee does not have to commute to work. They can now also reside in areas where the cost of living is cheaper. Generally, in the past, higher wages were paid in order to compensate for employees moving to areas where the cost of living was higher. However, if employees no longer need to commute to work or move to big cities, some businesses have plans to lower salaries to match the cost of living in their area. The plan to offer lower wages would also mean that job searches will become more competitive, as the pool of potential employees gets larger. Instead of competing with employees that live in San Francisco, California only, for example, you now have to compete with employees from across the nation. And if these employees live in lower cost of living areas, they may seem cheaper to a company. Another ethical issue encountered is an employee's privacy. With the rise of remote work comes new technologies that are well intended and seek to provide productivity reports to managers to ensure employees are working. However, the concern surrounding these technologies comes from the ability to track employees in the privacy of their own homes. These technologies can track words typed as well as keystrokes, but who's to say this tracking is turned off when an employee is off the clock? Are managers privy to an employee's personal time accessing information from their banks or private sites? These technologies can also track GPS locations, allowing them to track where an employee is both on and off the clock. Lastly, these technologies can also be used to enable the employee's computer camera, allowing an employer to see private images of an employee in their home. What makes these technologies concerning is all of this can be done without the employee's knowledge. While at home, it is sometimes easy to take advantage of being able to take extended breaks, work on non-office related tasks, log on late, or leave early. Even though an employee should know the rules of their company, without a manager or employees around to see them away from their desk or working on tasks that are non-office related, some employees may misuse company time. When it comes to remote learning, cheating is a big concern and is considered the most common issue. Cheating in remote learning stems from lack of monitoring systems and is enabled by online resources available to students. In order to prevent students from getting answers online or having someone else provide answers, monitoring systems are needed that can track a user's browser movements and record their surroundings, to give a few examples. Cheating is also enabled by the online resources that are now available. Professors and institutions are finding that whole assignments and confidential exams can be found online. Large providers such as Chegg are the source of full exam and assignment answers, making cheating easy and accessible. Students who partake in remote learning generally have less outside interaction with their peers, as lack of in-person meetings can result in less interpersonal relationships. Therefore, instructors may feel more comfortable discussing inappropriate topics with their students, and less relationships among the students means the students are less likely to discuss an instructor's behavior outside of class. This could lead to more discussions regarding political views, religious views, and other controversial views that should not be discussed in a learning environment. Remote learning can also facilitate flexible schedules, meaning that lectures can be recorded and watched at later dates and times. However, these recordings can infringe on student privacy. The classroom is often a place where sensitive information is discussed. For example, a student could confront an instructor about a late assignment before or after class. This conversation is then potentially recorded and uploaded. Students are also generally joining these remote classrooms from home. If cameras are required, personal images of the student in their home could be recorded and uploaded. Although these recorded sessions are found to make learning easier, they pose some very real ethical concerns. Next, we'll talk about some of the main challenges and opportunities related to remote work and learning. While remote work and learning have their own set of challenges, they also share certain challenges as well. Challenges such as team collaboration and tracking productivity uniquely affect remote work. Regarding remote learning, some unique challenges faced include poor online learning content and students being left behind. Some challenges that are faced by both remote work and learning include distractions, motivation, and loneliness. Let's take a look at each of these challenges to get a better understanding. Some of the main challenges faced regarding remote work is collaboration and tracking productivity. In fact, one of the most common challenges reported by remote teams is collaboration. This challenge generally stems from team members being separated and sometimes even spread across the country. This means having to deal with team members in different time zones, making hitting deadlines a challenge. This also means that teams cannot just walk over and start talking to each other, which is common when a team is centrally located in one office. To combat these collaboration issues, it is essential that collaboration tools are implemented. Examples of this include platforms such as Slack for group chats and file sharing, as well as platforms such as Google Docs to collaborate and build singular documents. Tracking productivity can also be difficult if the right tools are not utilized. Remote work means managers no longer have the luxury of seeing an employee work. This also makes tracking the little tasks much harder. Sure, it's easy to say an overall project is due at a certain time, but to meet that deadline, you have to track the small tasks that make up an overall project. Therefore, project management tools must be utilized to track what tasks are being worked on and how long completion takes. Regarding remote learning, we see that some of the main challenges faced include poor online content and students being left behind. In order to adapt to remote learning, instructors must tweak the traditional presentations they have used for many years. To have a thriving remote learning environment, content should be interactive to engage learners and promote course completion. To assist with adapting their content, instructors should adopt modern authoring tools to format content and take advantage of templated quizzes, assessments, and more. Remote learning has also prompted students to be left behind. If instructors don't know a student needs help, they are unable to accommodate the student. Because students are seen only virtually, it is difficult to read body language, making it harder for instructors to know when a student needs help. To add to it, we find that remote learners may also stay silent about their need for help, adding to the difficulty of an instructor knowing they need help. There are also shared challenges that remote work and learning face. Some of these main challenges include distractions, motivation, and loneliness. At home, it is easy for both learners and workers to get distracted. The TV could be tempting, maybe there's laundry to be done, or maybe our pets are more interested in playing. There's also no one around, making it easier to get distracted since there is no one to hold you accountable. Similarly, if there are no managers or instructors around, it is easier to put off doing certain tasks, as there can be a feeling of less pressure to get things done. Remote workers and learners also report feeling lonely. Being remote prevents people from building in-person relationships. These in-person relationships have been shown to create more considerable bonds and therefore lead to more camaraderie among coworkers and peers, thus making building camaraderie virtually very difficult. Along with challenges, there are many opportunities that can come from remote work and learning. Regarding remote work, there can be opportunities to have more job options, save money, and have a better work-life balance. For remote learning, there are opportunities for more students to be able to learn, as well as opportunities for better education to be provided. Let's take a closer look at the opportunities provided for both remote work and learning. When it comes to remote work, employees may experience opportunities to have more job options, save money, and have a better work-life balance. Since companies do not have to hire in a specific area, they can recruit employees from across the nation. This enables employees to have more job options and employers to have a larger pool of applicants. This also means that employers can hire people from varied socioeconomic and geographic backgrounds, promoting greater inclusivity in the hiring processes. Saving money is another opportunity that comes from remote work. If you don't need to commute to work, you're not spending money on gas, car maintenance, or parking, for example. Employees may also save when it comes to buying lunch, as they can prepare lunch at home. Businesses also have the same opportunity to save money. If they don't have to have employees commuting to work, there's no need to buy office space, saving businesses a lot of money. Being able to work remote also offers employees the opportunity to have flex schedules, leading to greater work-life balance. Flex schedules allow an employee to start and work as they please as long as their work is done, allowing an employee more freedom throughout their day to spend time on their personal life. Another opportunity afforded to remote workers is the ability to work from anywhere. Whether it's traveling abroad or to a child's soccer game, the ability to work from anywhere can enhance an employee's ability to enjoy life while getting their work done. Remote learning offers the opportunity for more students to learn because it makes learning accessible and expandable. Some students are not able to travel far, and sometimes educational resources are outside of their grasp because of this. However, remote learning allows these students to access learning from anywhere. In addition, the idea of a student not being able to take a specific course because of classroom size becomes a thought of the past, expanding a student's ability to take more classes and learn more. Remote learning also offers the opportunity to have better education delivered, as remote learning is interactive, promotes communication, and some students enjoy it more when compared to traditional classrooms. A well-designed course allows for students to have interactive content using devices that are familiar to them, such as mobile devices. Taking advantage of these familiar devices enables students to feel comfortable and therefore have a better chance of success. Remote learning also gives us an opportunity to promote communication, as platforms can be used to instantly communicate information to students and other instructors. Instructors are also able to analyze data in real time regarding their assessments to determine if the course material should be modified. These types of statistics allow students to communicate with their instructors differently, but in a good way, and allows the instructor to adapt to their students and provide better education. Remote learning is also preferred by some students and allows them to receive better education. For some, remote learning is the only option, as it is affordable considering the lower tuition costs and lack of expenses from commuting. Remote learning also enables students to learn on their own time and not be placed on the spot in class, which can promote them to have a better education experience.